Hi, this is Mike from BandLab. Did you know that BandLab has a sampler designed for playing back one-shot samples? In this video, we'll show you how to make your own custom drum kit with BandLab's sampler, and use that kit to create a drill beat. You can open this project yourself with the link in the video description. And if you find this guide useful, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to be the first to know when new videos drop. BandLab includes many pre-built drum kits for you to use, but if you're after a specific sound, you can make your own kit using the one-shot drum samples available in BandLab Sounds. Let's make a custom kit now, and use that kit to make a drill beat. I start by setting the project tempo to 140 beats per minute, and the project key to A minor. Next, I add a sampler track. By default, the sampler is empty, so we need to find some drum sounds to load into it. Open BandLab Sounds and click the One-Shots tab. BandLab will display all the available one-shot samples, and we can search by a specific type of sound using the filter settings. I set the instrument filter to kick, and the list of samples below will now only show kicks. We can filter by other characteristics too. I set the genre filter to hip-hop trap, and the character filter to dark. So now all the samples shown will be dark, hip-hop style kick drums. We can audition these samples by clicking them. I like the sound of FD puking 808, so I drag it onto the first sampler pad. Let's find some more sounds. Next, I want a snare. Rather than set up all the filters again, I can simply change the instrument to snare. Now all the samples displayed will be dark hip-hop style snares. Foreign Tech Curry snare sounds interesting, so I drag that onto the second sampler pad. Let's add another sound. This time I set the instrument filter to hi-hats. CBKG flange closed hat sounds cool, so I drag it into the third sampler slot. Now we've got a basic drum kit. Let's compose a rhythm. I'm going to start with the hi-hats. Drill rhythms tend to use a repeating 2-beat hi-hat pattern with hats on the 1st, 4th, and 7th 16th notes. I duplicate this out for the rest of the 4-bar clip. To duplicate notes or clips in BandLab, hold Option on Mac or Alt on Windows and drag them over. Now I want to add a snare. I position a snare on the 3rd beat of the 1st bar, and on the 4th beat of the 2nd bar. I then duplicate this out. We can see that this track is now clipping the master meter when we play the project back, which is undesirable. So I turn the sampler track down to -6 dB. Next, I add kicks. I place kicks on the 1st, 4th, and 15th 16th notes of the 1st bar, and on the 1st and 4th 16th notes of the 2nd bar. I then duplicate these out. I feel like this beat can do with another percussion sound. I'd like to be able to process this sound separately from the other drum sounds, so I add another sampler instrument. I change the instrument filter in BandLab Sounds to percussion. I drag CBKG finger snap perc onto the first pad. I sequence this sound between the 3rd and 4th beats of the 2nd bar, and the 3rd and 4th beats of the 4th bar. I'd like this finger snap to sound more atmospheric, so in the effects panel, I add a reverb, studio reverb effect. I set this track to -3 dB to balance it with the first sampler track. Now that we have a drum part, let's add some other sounds to flesh our beat out. I add a virtual instrument track and set it to synth basses, colossal lead. I sequence this to play A#2 on the last beat of the 1st bar, and A2 on the 1st beat of the 2nd bar. I duplicate this onto the second half of the clip. I set this track to -4.5 dB to balance it with the other elements. Now let's find a piano loop that will complement our beat and bass line. In BandLab's Sounds, I select the Loops tab. I set the instrument filter to keyboard, the genre filter to hip-hop trap, and the character to dark. I can see from the tags under the sample that DL3 145 A Phrygian Graveyard Roads is in A minor, which makes me think it might fit with the bass line I've created. I try dragging it into the project, and take a listen to hear how it sounds. Not bad, but it needs some tweaking to fit the project. First, I drag the end of the sample to reduce it to 4 bars in length. Then, I set the track to -4 dB. Next, I add a tone multi-filter, setting the resonance to 0 and the frequency to 520 Hz to smooth out the sample's high end. I then add a reverb, studio reverb, to give the sound a natural reverb. Remember, you can fork this project and make your own version of it using the link in the video description. Have fun!